Welcome to Dark Loops Productions, Surviving the Last of Us. I'm Dr. Scott Jordan, aka Zombie Scotty, cognitive psychologist, philosopher at Illinois State University.
And I'm Dr. Leandra Parris, Associate Dean and Director of Diversity and Inclusion for School of Ed at William & Mary.
We come together tonight to discuss Episode 6, Kin. Joining us on the program are dear friends from Popcorn Psychology. Please introduce yourselves and let the audience know a little something about what you do.
My name is Ben Stover. I am a licensed clinical professional counselor out of Chicago, and my specialty is trauma, and I am a clinical director in a private practice as well as a clinician for the Chicago Police Department. So working on trauma and debriefings is what I do. And I have my lovely partners here with me, Hannah and Brittney.
Sounds like we're married. My name is Brittney.
All three of us. We're a throuple.
My name's Brittney Brownfield. I'm also an LCPC. I do private practice work. I work with all ages. I'm classically trained as a child therapist, but I work with all ages and family work and that kind of stuff. And yeah, I'm on Popcorn Psychology with Hannah and Ben.
And my name is Hannah Espinoza. I own my own private practice where I see anyone from ages 11 all the way to ages 70s. And I am a marriage and family therapist, but also a licensed clinical professional counselor like Ben and Brittney.
Fantastic. We're thrilled to have the three of you here with us tonight. So let's jump into the episode. What we do here on Dark Loops is favorite line, favorite scene, favorite character. So we're going to open the floor to our guests. Any one of you, is there a favorite line, a favorite scene, or a favorite character you'd like to discuss?
I can go first. I would say my favorite scene might be like the opening scene. I love Graham Greene, and I recognized his wife as the receptionist from Northern Exposure, which is a show Hannah and I tried to rewatch during like the height of the pandemic, in that Hannah bought all 6 seasons and then we watched
I did
one. That's like some quarantine bonkers brain for you. And I really just loved that scene, the cadence. I think this show needs a little bit of like levity every once in a while. And so I think that's a scene that I'm also seeing a lot on TikTok from people in the Indigenous community, just really liking the representation. But I loved their whole vibe and the way that they talk to each other. I just really found it very charming.
Yeah, I love their interactions. That was such a nice addition for levity to the darkness of this world and the darkness of the game, to see this elderly couple just out doing their own thing and making it, and still having enough energy to troll each other, even with guns pointed at them. That's marriage. That's winning at marriage.
That really was my favorite part, was when he was like, did you tell them the truth? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, are you telling me the truth? And she's like, yeah. The whole thing. Like, he didn't even like react. He just like, he walked in and he immediately saw her face and was like, shit.
And even when he was asking her if she was telling the truth, you knew that her answer was code either way, right? In other words, the words probably didn't have to be the code. It was the way she said it, or something they'd just grown into as a couple. Right.
Yeah, I want whatever energy that woman has in my life, just to be that cool, calm, and collected in the face of a gun.
And that like super factual, where she was like, you don't scare us. And it's like, scared him. Like, just like, you honest know what's happening. Like, your man here knows he's got something to be worried about, and I'm not going to let him get away with it. Like, he needs, and so that whole thing, and the fact that they were like already out there when everything happened, and they were just been like, you know what, our lives just keep going. The rest of the world can do their crazy thing.
And that's one thing I really do like about the show, is when they do the comedy, it's not dark comedy in the sense that it's a very violent moment and they're turning it into a Get Shorty or Pulp Fiction-y kind of scene. It's when it's serious. And even though this is serious, there's a funny edge that's coherent with the characters. And I really don't care for it when directors give us a lot of violence and then try to make it funny. And they didn't do that here at all. And finding that kind of levity is a gift.
Are you saying you don't like it when someone shoots Marvin in the face?
No, I mean, but I tell you, one of my favorite lines in any conversation is, I don't even have an opinion. Which is Martin, of course, before he gets shot in the face. Anyone else on that scene?
I do.
I really enjoyed that scene too. I really loved it. And I also loved that she made them soup. That was one of my favorite parts. I was like, when just knowing that she did that automatically, knowing that they'd just been out in the wilderness. And so she just, out of the kindness of her heart, just did something that you would do for anyone who had been out in the wilderness.
Well, I think it also says a lot about the fact that he has a 14-year-old with him, like a young girl, I'm sure works to his advantage in a lot of ways. And I think one of them is probably making him seem less threatening, and then provokes perhaps more care from people like this couple. It'd be a different flavor if it was just Joel. And she kind of says that immediately to her husband as well. He's also got a girl with him. And I don't know if that was just her telling, because you're right, she's just very upfront, or if maybe she was trying to tell her husband, like, there's also like a little girl running around. Like, this isn't maybe as threatening as it seems at face value.
Right. Or whatever pocket pistol you're carrying that is unseen, please don't.
True.
Yeah.
That's also true.
When you hear pitter patter of feet upstairs, please do not shoot at it. It is a child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is fair warning.
Yeah. And then the fact that, again, her tone could have been the cue, that there's a girl here. Those are the words. But then I'm sure if it had been a different girl, there probably would have been a different tone to her voice. As anyone in a long-term relationship will tell you, the words aren't necessarily the message. Anyone else on that scene?
I do like that she predicts the panic attack that he ends up having. He's scared. And he doesn't look scared, but she knows. And then as soon as they leave and he doesn't, he basically has a panic attack right there in the fence. Like, she genuinely, I don't think, was trying to scare Ellie. I think she was trying to tell Ellie, like, he's scared. Like, something, you know what I mean? And the way that played out was really nice. Her stealing the rabbit was perfect.
Yes.
I don't know why. They would have given it to her anyway. Like, but just the tie between her saying that and then his panic attack was really, I thought, like a really cool, something cool that he had a panic attack, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that version of Ellie, like this Ellie, Bella Ramsey's Ellie stealing the rabbit, was perfect. I don't think video game Ellie would have taken a rabbit. I think this version of Ellie would absolutely have taken a rabbit, and it was perfect for her.
Okay. Anybody else on another favorite line, favorite scene, favorite character?
I can go. My favorite scene was the Bella and Pedro going through the emotional meat of the episode. Was, if you leave me, I'm just going to be more scared. Everyone else has left me.
Extremely well done. Brutal honesty, right? And extremely well acted.
It was amazing. And it was amazing to see that come to life. As I know they said it right in the after episode breakdown, but that scene was word for word, shot for shot, line for line, pulled directly from one of the most impactful moments of the game, where, Joel is actively rejecting his own reality that he is starting to view her as his daughter.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because there is the rejection, and at the same time, the way he delivers it is in terms of his own failing, right? And that kind of gaslighting ourselves, right, is 99% of how we live half the time. So I like the way that he's going one way, but we know the scene's going another way, and just incredibly well acted.
I love that they added his conversation with Tommy right before that scene, because playing the video game at the same time, again, that is like the big scene that, like, it's the turning point for the whole game. Like, a whole bunch of stuff just changes from then on out. But I don't know in the video game that I had enough appreciation for the fact that Joel was doing it because he was trying to protect her, not himself. Whereas in this version, it's very much like, I will fail her. I will mess up. I cannot do this. I am too old for this shit. Like, I'm going to let her down. I cannot take it. And I think that's a very different Joel than the one we see in the video game in that moment. And so being in that space, I really have to give them credit for making that their own. and him coming in with like a complete kind of a, I don't want to say it's different because who knows what they meant in the video game, but the whole thing just like resonated, boom, 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 right? Until you're just crying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that scene with his
up
brother was actually my favorite scene, because that level of honesty is, and okay, so to see Joel cry, you know, okay, stereotypical tough guy cries, but he's not lying. Everything he says is the truth. He's getting old. He's getting hurt. He doesn't think he can get her there. And you know what you said, Ben, about rejecting her as a daughter. That's all part of it. It's an and both situation. And you know, when you're doing good writing, when you're doing good acting, it is both. And we get to talk about both. I just thought that was one of the finer scenes I've seen in a long time.
It was really great. And I like Leandra, loved that they used exactly the lines from the game, because I just replayed it as well. Just finished it last week because it's just the best game ever, except for the second one. But the the things that they did to make it their own and change a little bit of the narrative, because in the game, Ellie runs away. That scene takes place in a farmhouse that later becomes Ellie's house, but that she runs away from Joel because she perceives he's going to leave her and just gets a horse and goes by herself after the dam. And then seeing the way they reframed this a little bit and then still made it their own, where instead of it being, you know, like you guys are saying about, you know, kind of Joel protecting himself, about Joel protecting Ellie, and just that little bit of subtlety and the absolutely stellar acting they did to make that their own was amazing.
Absolutely. I also really enjoyed just how vulnerable he's able to be with his brother so quickly. Not that it would necessarily be a surprise because it is his brother, but in terms of how hardened we've seen him throughout the episodes, and how, because he's trying really hard to not have feelings for Ellie, and to see him be so vulnerable with his brother so quickly, like he's been waiting. He's just been waiting to tell someone how fucking freaked out he is about what he has to do and what he's supposed to be doing.
And usually
he's freaked out. I just have this image now. I'm gonna be like, I'm freaking out, man. I'm freaking out. Like,
exactly.
You are freaking out, man.
Exactly. And usually in these kind of shows, you can sense the writing. In other words, you can sense that the writers are trying to tell you something. Whereas the way this one's being acted, it just always feels like the characters are driving the story. They're saying what they're saying. And if it feels written, it feels like maybe this episode in relation to other episodes. And that's where you feel the writers. But the ability in order to make that work, you've got to have an and both vibe throughout the episode, right? It can't feel like but, because then you see where the writers are coming from. So their ability to just keep that moving is for me really an accomplishment, and why I'll probably watch this series again many times, because it's about the characters, not about the writers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I would say, I think this says so much about Pedro Pascal's acting, like the amount of vulnerability he's able, because I don't play video games, so I have not played this video game. But I have seen clips, like people on TikTok and stuff have been like doing like side by sides of the scene, the scene, it seems like the capital S scene. And he puts this vulnerability into the scene that it doesn't seem like it's in the video game. The video game has a much like that. Joel seems a little harder and more brusque and more like Clint Eastwood-esque old time Western kind of energy. And I think what Pedro does so well, which makes me more invested in his character and his relationship with Ellie, is his eyes. Like he seems more heartbroken and more like I feel like he does a good job, and I noticed this a lot in the last episode as well, of like you can feel him wanting to be with her, like wanting to hug her or comfort her or go towards her, and he's like restraining himself. It's like you can almost see him go like forward and then pull back, and I think that's he brings such a nice little energy to it that makes me feel like you're saying, Scott, almost like I can read his mind in a way that, I don't know, feels very special to
And
other
it's
things
not
I
a
watch.
it's not a simple mind that you're reading, right? It's a very complex, nuanced situation, and nonetheless, it's available for us. It's fantastic.
I like that you pointed out that Joel is a little softer than he is in the video game, because I think that's absolutely true. I think the video game has him and Ellie at extremes, where Joel is very hardened, ultimately makes some decisions that lead to some things in the second game that's not great. But like he's got no softness in the video game, like like a little bit, but like when Ellie is like so innocent, not I wouldn't say innocent, but like very, I mean, she's 14, she's much softer. So for this, it's almost like they softened him up a little bit and gave her an edge that I think really works out well. In a video game, you need extremes because it's a video game. But I think for the show, they made a really good call with letting them start to balance each other a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree, because I don't think in the game, I don't think Joel softens up until what we're probably going to see in 2 episodes, because it looks like they're going to do the Left Behind next, so which is going to be fantastic.
So you're saying he lives?
I was going to say,
show
man,
fresh as a baby.
I don't know what's going to happen in this game or in the show.
Joel lives. That's all I needed. Thank you.
I don't know if Joel lives.
So you know what? This conversation you guys are having about the softer Joel in the TV show. One of the things I love about it is the media might not be able to deliver that message in the video game, right? I mean, you're looking at computer generated faces that can't generate the level of complexity that an actor can. And so maybe that influenced the writers of the game, keep the characters a bit more simple, because we can't do it with the face. And then, or even recognizing as a writer of a show, now we have more degrees of freedom. We have a bigger emotional space. If that's the case, I just love that kind of stuff. People that are aware of the degrees of freedom in their craft and then making an adaptation in a different medium and using all the different options you have there instead of just completely rewriting it, which a lot of people like to do, or trying to.
I think you're right. I think they knew the degrees of freedom they had with the video game, and they went with it. Although at the end, we're going to come back. I want to put a pin in this because there's going to be a scene in the end of this video game that just put a pin in it.
All right, I'm writing it down.
Conversation.
E6. Leandra places a pin.
And, Leandra, I don't know if you played the upgraded one, but the differences between the PlayStation 3 version and the PlayStation 5 one in the facial acting that has gone into it is astounding.
It is absolutely.
Well, when I get out of the basement, I'll be able to notice.
Look, you gotta get out of the basement. You gotta get out of the city. Like you got
I need
you have like what, 3 clickers and 2 bullets, and that's it.
That's it, man. 3 clickers and 2 bullets. I got to figure out what to do.
Yeah. I'll give you the first clue. It's not hard charging. Don't do that.
Okay. Well, I have tried that a few times, I will admit. So there you go. I won't do that one next. Excellent. Anyone else? Favorite line, favorite scene, favorite character?
I really enjoy the part where Joel finally just gives in and starts answering all of her questions and shows her how to shoot and decides, like, you can really see that he's made a decision that he's going to walk towards her and maybe not fully, maybe he's not ready for that, but certainly allowing himself to be more of a role model, more of somebody that she can lean on, more of someone that she can learn from without the gruffness that he usually adds when he's showing her something. I thought that was really beautiful and was really lovely to see him be able to take that step towards her after which I feel like really validates her coming to him and saying, I'm going to be more scared if you're not there. And him saying, okay, I understand that. And now I do want to show you things. And I do want you to survive. And I want to make sure that that's a part of what we do together. So that's the scene that I really loved.
Yeah, he definitely stops intentionally pushing her away and does kind of start to view her as like, if nothing else, like a companion on this journey, and being softer and more open to her and letting himself laugh and smile and crack in the veneer. I mean, then he immediately gets stabbed, but so I don't know about that. But no, but I really love that part too. Just him, because I think what the show does well, and I'm assuming this also happens in the video game, is showing him with his daughter right at the beginning. So you know that he's capable of being like a loving, sweet, playful father. And so that is more of his authentic self that he has been shoving down to deal with the New World Order. And so it probably feels relieving to him to finally relent and talk about being a singer and cracking jokes and, you know, being in with her, like inside jokes about the pun book and stuff like that. You know, it probably feels relieving in a lot of ways. And I wonder if that does have an impact on his panic attacks, because you can only do so much at once, like internally, like fighting off of this relationship and trying to have this facade and trying to be safe. And like, he has too many tabs open in the Internet Explorer of his brain. And so he'll finally at least shut one down that's taking up a lot of power. And I wonder how that would impact him overall.
No, I think, go ahead, Ben. Go ahead, Ben.
Oh, I was gonna say, I mean, this is my specialty area here of like trauma and dissociation, and we see him consciously break out of that. So I think that's a very insightful point of view there, Brittney, is like watching him kind of close the tabs of a dead browser and like start running Chrome, man. You're in the present. Like let yourself run something that can exist in the present and shut down this need to protect yourself from attaching to someone again, because that's his biggest fear, which he reveals to Tommy in that scene, is that I think my biggest fear is losing a daughter again.
Yeah, they got all the steps right. I mean, when he approaches her in the bedroom, she starts to talk about his daughter, and he says, "Don't," and she keeps, and then he says, "You're not my daughter. You're not." You know, they go through that whole thing. When she comes at him emotionally, that actually releases a threshold for him. The amplitude of that emotion, the authenticity of that emotion, in a sense, bypasses his inhibition that he doesn't even really know he's been doing. He's just exhausted from it.
Right.
And then in the later scenes, you know, one of the things I study in the lab is joint action, and two people trying to work towards a common goal. And there's almost nothing that can make people feel like a we more than actually doing a common goal together. So they're sitting there shooting bullets, right? Well, the writers got that right, because he's right up next to her. You know, now the goal they have at that moment isn't with their bodies. The goal they have is that target. But it doesn't matter where the goal is, right? The issue is that they're trying to make the same thing happen. And it's in that space that the way I talk about it is at a different level of we emerges, not the video game, but the WE, you know, second person. And he's still not 100%, you know, open. Yeah. Yet it is a more joyful, less inhibited space. And they just got all the steps right. I was thrilled.
I love how y'all like dissected that so well. And when I was watching Joel finally start answering questions, I was like, oh, I've been there as a parent where you just give up. I'm tired.
Oh,
you bugged me for 3 months. We've been halfway across the country. I'll teach you how to shoot a damn gun. Y'all are right. And she also wore him down. I have got
wore him down.
Credit.
Oh,
she
yeah.
She said, oh, no, sir. You are not going to be my mentoring companion and not love me.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's a lot of, we always think about adults being the caregivers and the ones who are fueling relationships and the boundaries of that relationship, and that is not how that works.
No.
And this was a really good illustration of that.
It really was. And I think anybody who's a parent has been there before, where you just go like, all right, I don't even care what this child is asking me anymore. I'm just gonna answer it. I just whatever it is, it's fine.
Yeah, this is another example of how they got Ellie's character right, in the sense that the higher amplitude identity asserting herself more in the world that she's in. That's exactly the kind of person it takes to make the moves she made in this episode, right? To admit vulnerability with a high chunk of high amplitude. I need you, right? Asserting herself in her own situation. That kind of thing wouldn't be done and by someone who didn't have that much fortitude in their ego. So all the smart assery that I've called it, all the smart assery that's been going on with her is consistent with even the emotional, you're the only one that didn't leave. All of that's the same kind of assertiveness, and so they got it right. They must have consulted with some psychologist guys, because I'm very impressed at how well they're doing it.
And the fact that she starts off that conversation with Joel being like, is this really what they had to worry about? She's reminding him, your daughter had to worry about what to wear. Yeah. Your daughter had to worry about blah, 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 blah.
Right.
How nice that must have been. Like, it's snarky, and it's reorienting him back to like what the situation really is. She's not his daughter. And that's okay. Right? Like, I'm not supposed to be. So I think that's just that whole thing was just, like I said, boom, 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 boom. Lined up perfectly.
And even go ahead, Ben.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. We're all talking at once here.
All good.
But I think something you just said triggered my trauma brain on the show of, it didn't even click until we talked about this. Why I love doing these podcasts is watching that scene. Joel gets really aggressive right after that because Ellie activated for him a whole world of memories that had been shut down in that basement locker of his brain, where he dissociated away from all that it was to have a daughter who might have written exactly those kinds of things. And having her re-expose him to that triggered a whole lot of shutdown, aggressive pushback from Joel.
And when he sees that woman who looks like the grown-up version of his daughter, and then she has a daughter, I can't even.
That was heartbreaking.
And then Ellie opening that scene with, so this is what they worried about. She doesn't even have to be consciously aware that she's trying to remind him. Right? That's just how we do it. It just comes out because of the context. And that's what the writers have really grappled with or addressed really well. And Ben, your comment about, him opening up a world of memory, there's also a sense of, shit, this is it. Right? In other words, at some point when you get wore out, you just, whatever, we're going to go to the river of the dead or whatever they call it, right? We're just going to go, and you just kind of stop with the next move thinking, and you just go into that next space with a sense of acceptance. And when he's sitting there with the horse, and then she says, let's go. I mean, they don't even, that's joint action. That's a team. They know each other. And and she says, yeah, my smart assery isn't going away just because I told you that you're taking care of me. Yeah.
Right. No, she's so consistent in her presentation of like, this is exactly who I am. Take it or leave it, but you're going to take it. So,
and you're going to love it.
Yep.
Yeah.
You are.
I love that they also don't need to apologize to each other. Like they said some shitty stuff to each other.
They're very alike. They are very alike. And and I love going back to like her reading that diary. I think what this show does really well that I don't think a lot of shows like apocalyptic themed, dystopian themed show do, which is remind you consistently of how different the world is for someone who's grown up in that world. So like her being so amused by the car and the seatbelt, not knowing a seatbelt is, the plane, and now this notebook. I think they do such a good job on the show of grounding us into how alien our lives are for her, which I find very interesting every time they do it, because it really makes you realize, I don't know, just how different their world is now. To not know like what a seatbelt is such a wild idea.
First time in a car, please.
Interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That scene.
Okay.
The scene where we see that daughter or the pseudo daughter emerge. I think in addition to that one being so heartbreaking, that was another opportunity that the show gave us to recover from that, because right after that, they had another scene that made me laugh so hard, which was, I loved what they did with Maria. And they really expanded her. She was kind of like, and was also there, also participated in this story. Like, she did some badass shootery stuff, but, you know, mostly was kind of damsel in distressy and protected Ellie sort of, but in the game, but making her tough, making her powerful. But then the whole communist discussion made me laugh so
We live in
hard.
a commune. We are communists.
It's
It made me
hilarious.
realize that I never thought of the root of that word, which made me feel a little silly.
I wanted to scream like, of course it's not America anymore. Why are you holding on to this? Ah!
Well, they're from Texas.
Well, you know,
God, Lord.
the thoughts I had
Like,
during
girl,
them.
tell them, remind
Yeah.
them what's working for you. I'm not saying
Exactly.
America should be communist. I'm just saying in a post-apocalyptic world, it's working for them.
Right.
Mhm.
There is no capitalism. There's no money.
Well, at the same time, the smaller group allows communism to work more easily than it would have to work over an entire country where people have TVs and all this other stuff that you
Mhm.
somehow assume you end up having to distribute. That doesn't mean I'm anti-communist. I'm just saying, when they said that, I said, well, of course, because there's only 300 people
Yeah.
and you're going to share what you
Mhm.
have, right?
What's the size
Um,
of a commune? It makes
yeah.
me think of the line from episode 3 where he goes, do you know how much this is worth? And he goes, nothing now.
Exactly.
We have to think of things differently.
You know, exactly. You know, on the last episode, Leandra and I were talking about how they might be getting themselves into trouble with these cameos. There's extremely well acted one episode cameos of people who die, right? And it's like, okay, you can't do that every episode. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because Ben, you mentioned a little while ago that Joel might actually still be alive, right? So what I'm thinking is, this is the first time I felt like I've been writing at. In other words, someone's writing at me. And what I mean by that is death, Tess dies, person dies. Okay. Oh shit. It's Joel? Joel died this episode, right? I don't know. They've set me up to really experience Joel as dying. And so good for them. If he ends up not, it was a good way to capitalize on that. But usually in the show, I don't feel the writing. So, but
I would say that's when I most remember that it's a video game, because I don't play a lot of video games, but that's the most where it feels like, okay, we're at one stage of the video game. And so we've met these people and now we've moved on from this mission or level. And now we're at this other mission and level where there are these people, and then you achieve that and you move on. So I think that's where it does feel the most video game-ish, I assume, is that
That's
there's
exactly how it's set
only
up.
2 central characters, which I assume are the ones you're playing.
right.
And then everyone else is kind of supplementary to their story. So they come and go. They're fleeting.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
is so hard to do a road show and not have it feel that way, right? Where the
Mhm.
crew gets on the road and, okay, they're writing this adventure and that adventure. I'll just quickly say I think the movie I've seen that did that the best was Children of Men.
It's
In
one
that
of the
movie,
best.
you just, everything made perfect sense, and you knew they were trying to get somewhere, but nonetheless, you never felt like they had to get there so this writing scene could come out. And
Mhm.
usually that's, like you said, it's pretty okay. They got to go there now. They got to go there now. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think with Children of Men, it works because there's so much frenzied forward momentum to get to where they're going that it just feels like people are just like getting lost along the way.
All right.
It doesn't really have that sort of like beat for beat energy that Last of
Right.
Us does kind of have.
Mhm.
You know, and this show, I think the criticism I noticed in this last episode, and maybe Leandra is about to, maybe we're mind melding here, is this last episode covered probably 4 hours of gameplay, maybe more. And
I mean, I guess it depends on how many bullets you have and how many times you die, and if we have Molotov cocktails available or not. But yeah,
all right, if we're smart enough to realize that, with the stalkers, if you throw the noisy thing and then a bomb, they're a lot easier to fight.
I ran out of bombs. I'm not gonna lie. I'm one of those people who's always like, just throwing Molotov cocktails everywhere. And then I get to this part of the game and I'm like, ah, damn it.
Yeah.
Oh no, they gave me that for a reason. Shit. Like that flamethrower you get there, and which I was very disappointed that there was not a flamethrower, because they get a flamethrower at the college, man, and that you need that thing. You need it so bad.
Well, we need it. I don't know that this Joel needs it, but
yeah, probably not.
I will say though, what you're bringing up in terms of like the level of violence that's kind of being a little bit skipped over, which is good, right? Because you guys don't want to like sit around and just watch the same fight happen over and over again. As much as Ben and I enjoy being the one sitting through it, to the point about like with children and men being so frenzied, I will say I appreciate, particularly with the death of Sam, as hard as that was, it's hard to imagine that many infected being around and one of them not being bit. So there's a little bit of like reality in the fact that when you have more than 2 to 3 people together, someone's going down, like statistically. And so part of my problem I always had with The Walking Dead is they messed around with our hearts. Like they would fall and then hide under a dumpster and come out alive later. Like the beat is starting to wear a little thin, but they're not messing around with me. So I can give them a little bit of grace on that. But forewarned, I can only take so much more. So
Leandra has spoken, folks. So. Any other scenes, lines, characters?
I don't want to be someone where there are free monkeys, is all I'll say. I don't know.
All right. So they left out one part of the game that I really love about the monkeys, which is that the monkeys are infected. And like one of the people bit,
that's like 28 days later notes, energy.
And so they the monkey bit me.
Yeah.
And now he has to stay behind when they're moving everything because now he's infected. So I'm sad that they let that out, but you can't get every side note. But I do want to go back to what we were talking about with the whole like commune thing. And I'm a little disappointed in Tommy because I don't think he answered Joel's question, and Joel had a legit reason to be upset. You are out here celebrating Christmas with electricity, with sheep, which I just told this girl is my dream.
Right.
Meanwhile, I'm over here in Boston with Tess, barely making it through, burning children, and you can't answer a call. You can't communicate anyway. Like, I'm sorry. I'm a little like, what's your reasoning for that?
It does seem like, which could have been neat to see more of this, like meat of this, is that to see what their dynamic was in that 20 years and what Tommy was like. Because the vibe I get from his partner when she's like cutting Ellie's hair is that she kind of seemed like she like saved Tommy from a life he was living, or he found this sort of paradise. And I wonder if he wanted to keep Joel from that. Like, if it seems like there's a really negative attack, like he's a negative, like something really negative about Joel, and the way that his partner talks about it is almost like Joel was the bad thing that happened to Tommy during that 20 years.
I think you're right. And I think the end on that is that Tommy needed Joel. In other words, Joel's not a leader. Tommy's not a leader and Joel is. And Joel's saying like, dude, I came across the country. You stayed here for love. That's not equivalent, man. I mean, and so Joel being a leader and not sort of recognizing that Tommy's following him, and that's the thing is when you're going to be a leader, you can't expect reciprocity at all these levels, right? That's what being a leader is. So, but then Joel's never been a particularly insightful character, in terms of himself. So maybe he's just like, dude,
I just have and I agree with everything that you're saying, Brittney, too. Like, I definitely can see how she ends up with that perspective, but like, you're also smart enough to know that that's Tommy's perspective and that Tommy's telling you his truth and that Joel has his truth. And the reality is going to be some sort of intersection of those two things. Joel, I was a little put off by her constantly like warning Ellie not to trust him based on she's never met this man. Yeah. And like, I get that he's your partner and you're in love with him, but he's also human. He's been through trauma. He has his own identity work that he's doing. He's got his own boundary he's put up, and he has very neatly put Joel in a box where he puts all his guilt. And to not even explain to Joel yep, I cut you out. So I have like feels about that.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I mean, Joel Miller is he is a protagonist of the show, sort of. But there's much story to be told, so I won't tell it to everyone who hasn't seen it just yet. But like knowing all the story and where it all goes, Joel Miller is a protagonist of the show, and Tommy and the way they depicted him in this show, with all the subtext available of Tommy's kind of looking at him like, yeah, dude, you aren't safe. You're part of the not safe people, the wrong kind of people comment that Joel Miller, you saying I'm the wrong kind of people? Like, yeah, you're the wrong kind of people. Actually,
I mean, it reminds me of when people will cut out go no contact with like everyone in their life to get to the next stage of their life. And sometimes people feel like they have to brutally do that in order to move on. And there's definitely, like you're saying, Leandra, like there's definitely room for argument about like, is that fair? And people can sometimes feel like they have to do like a whole like what's the word I'm looking for? Like amputation of like their former life to feel okay and to heal. And it maybe that's what it was. Tommy just went no contact with Joel and was like, I don't want to jeopardize this precarious, like, I wonder how precarious this new life maybe still feels to Tommy because of their background.
I mean, that's true. Joel did walk in with a shitload of crap when he did show up. So
I got a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Like,
See,
he
for
does
me,
agree, right? But
well, love's a powerful drug, right? And what I mean is you'll gaslight the hell out of yourself when you're falling in love. And then when two people are falling in love, one of the easiest ways to make that feel more realistic is to have a common other, right? So if Tommy's falling in love with her and they can collectively other Joel as a way of solidifying their own we borders, that's what people do. How many times have you talked to a new acquaintance, talk crap about a former boyfriend or girlfriend, right? Oh yeah, why? Because that creation of that space with a common other makes us stronger, makes us feel stronger together. And when you throw love and sexual passion in the mix, it's game over. And people don't even know they're doing it. All they know is that they're getting closer to someone.
Right. And then add a little bit of loss and trauma in there to further motivate the closing down of that past life and grief. Right. Yeah. And the whole point of grief is so you can close down one reality to open another, while letting go of the rules of the past one. And there is obvious signs that, I mean, written right on the chalk on the wall that Tommy is still grieving Sarah too.
Yeah, he is. And I got to admit, I don't remember the name of the character that was Tommy's wife.
Maria.
Leandra, your comment about why the hell are you saying that? You don't know. That's one person's perspective. But yet people in love are pretty quick with that. Right. Because it's part of that we, right? Part of the we is not that. And then, we go through life finding out people that are like that and not liking that, not like that, and then making our own decisions about who to be around, right? But that's pretty prominent.
Well, I think it's interesting that this is still happening in an apocalypse, right? Like all these like scary things that we do. And like I said, I don't begrudge Tommy doing that. What I begrudge is him not answering the question. What I begrudge is him not giving Joel a moment to have until Joel literally is crying in front of him and he's like, damn, you know what, you're right, I guess I'll take this girl.
Well, that's the thing, is I think he got emotionally bullied into doing it.
He did.
I don't he never had a thought in his head of why. He didn't know that he created a wee space with her against Joel and fell in love. He just knew that he didn't want to go. Right.
Yeah. He does have a baby on the way. Like, I'm gonna give him some now. Like, that really changes up your perspective. I just answer the question, man. Own it.
Yeah.
Say it. Joel deserves to hear, when you're around, I feel unsafe. I have a family. I have something good. Did it hurt you? Yes. I'm sorry. And this is what I have. Right. Like, he just ignored it.
I mean, he did, and I think I know part of why, at least from my perspective, because I don't know everything, right? But looking at it, what I saw when you Leandra, when you said that box comment, right? Like he's got Joel in a neat little box. Well, who's in that box next to him is the version of himself that was with Joel, doing all the stuff that they did, and the grief and the guilt that we see on his face when he's like, nope, I'm seeing him and I am getting visual stimuli that is triggering my memories, and nope, don't want any of that. We live a peaceful life with Christmas trees and movies and happy children that are fed and sheep here. We are not raiding and fireflying and freedom fighting. We have created a little space in the world that we can be the exact versions of ourselves and say goodbye to the violent part, unless we have to.
And it's clear in his relationship with Maria, he told her Joel's violent. And that's a way of him saying it wasn't my fault, right? And so you're right on that. He's in that box and, gaslighting himself as a way to get through the moment. And people do that. Good leaders aren't allowed to do that, but everyone else, it's okay.
Imagine the relief you felt though when Joel came in and was like, so you have a choice, I'll go or he does. And Ellie's like, let's go.
Yes.
I know.
Yes, back in my box.
Right.
I mean, this like that situation was such like the trolley problem, right? Of do we desert our pregnant wife, which feels so unfair, and then also we have this girl who could be the answer to everything and like save the world. Like it's such a horrible position.
Yeah, it is,
that Joel puts Tommy in. And I get where Joel's coming from, which is, I know we've been talking a lot about how Joel is, closed off emotionally, and that's part of his thing. But I think in that moment, he does kind of prioritize Ellie and the mission over himself, right? And his ego, which I think is really powerful. And I think it also says a lot about the honor within Joel that, that in that moment, he was like, she is more important, and kind of by being vulnerable like that and checking his ego, I'm sure was moving to Tommy as well. Like this is bigger than all of us.
And Joel's a leader once again. Ben, you're not talking on purpose.
Hannah and Brittney, I know for a fact, do not know where this story goes.
Okay.
No, and I don't want to know. It's exciting to watch something and not know what's going to happen.
I'm not gonna lie. I want to know how you guys how other people react. Like this is part of the reason I really want to do the podcast with someone who hadn't like played the video game, because I want to know. Because there's so much that they could do or not do. Like the whole transition between game 1 and game 2 can be done a million different ways. But I love that y'all are definitely more invested in Joel and Ellie than I was in them playing the video game. So
right.
I almost cheated and looked when I was like, Joel, they wouldn't really kill Joel this early. And I almost Googled.
Oh, you thought they were full like Game of Thrones, right? Like
I literally said that because Hannah and I watched it together, and I was like, they're not going to Ned Stark him. Yeah, I don't think. But who knows?
HBO set a trend, man. I mean, they've got it. They've been keeping it real so far, and that's why I was worried they were killing off one new character every week. That gets to be predictable, and then it's not the same thing. So
right. Well, and statistically, eventually, it's got to be one of them, right? In terms of time's going to run out for someone. It has to, statistically speaking.
All right, then.
I will say,
go ahead.
Him getting stabbed, was that like a railroad spike or something?
It was the bat.
Oh, that's broke. I missed it.
I thought it was like not a spade, but like almost like an ice pick, like the handle looked very ice pick-esque.
I had no idea what it was.
It was the bat handle. The guy took a swing at him with the bat, and it broke on the tree when he missed Joel, and he stabbed him with the pointy end of the bat.
I can't believe he lived that long after that kind of a wound. I'll be honest, that kind of wound, you're going to lose blood so quickly.
Well, he pulled it
so
out
fast.
You never.
He should have left it in there.
Pull it out.
And now that I know it's
especially when it's in your tummy.
Yeah, I'm a little more freaked out because, like, in the video game, it's a piece of what's that called? Rebar.
He falls off a second story onto a rebar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it's like, I was
Ooh.
like, oh, I'm so glad I didn't do that because that was awful. And then when he was like, and I was like, oh shoot, now I feel even worse because I was like, that is not clean.
Not at all. No. A lot
No,
of stuff left back in there.
Not that bad has been Negan'd with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any final comments on this episode?
I love the Diva Cup part 2. That was like my honorable mention for favorite scene. That and the tampon scene in the previous episodes,
Mm.
because that's like the reality. I
Yeah.
like that
Mhm.
they're like first freaking show like this. That's like, oh yeah, women still have periods. Next I would love to see a lady with a hairy leg or armpit hair.
Yep.
The fact that like in stuff like The Walking Dead, there's women wearing shorts and they're like fully like waxed to the gods and lotioned up and shiny.
Yeah.
And no one's talking about this stuff. So I love that they introduced maybe Diva Cups to a lot of people who don't know what they are.
Mhm.
And then showed that like this is a necessity that they're thinking of, that Maria and the other women possibly are like thinking of to give to her. Because they also are like, God, she's walking around with that old ass man. Like he's not thinking about her periods.
Or not.
No.
Mm.
Or something that's like reusable, right? And it didn't occur to me. I
Yes.
was like, she doesn't need that. She has the tampons. And I was like, wait, Leandra, those go away. They're one use.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
Yeah.
the idea that they've like found that, I thought was a really nice, like, also a reminder that she is 14. Like she's got these things that she's got to start figuring out about herself. And sorry, Joel, but you're kind of like her dad now. So
Yep.
good luck.
Mhm.
Yep.
Right. Find that part of you that understands this and unlock it, because you
Yeah.
had one, you had a teenager, you understand. Wake up.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've been talking about the game pretty much all throughout the episode, so I don't know that we have to do a special game part, right? I mean, it's
No, I think
that's fine.
we normally just say, I mean, I think Ben is spot on. This is like 4 hours. Like I literally thought that they would stop after they got to the dam, which was
Me
sounded
too.
like a pretty and then when it kept going, I was like, oh, like they're gonna do like the whole
Mm.
like, and but I do think that like it was a clean episode. Like they cut out some of the stuff that was really fun for a video game player,
Mm.
Yeah.
but probably not fun to see on TV.
No, probably it would have dragged. Like the university is like, had they done like a shoot 'em up episode, because the university is heartbreaking in the game, where you're watching, like you're going through and reading about like these students basically got abandoned, like realizing like they send people out, and you're doing all this through like reading notes and diaries and stuff, where finding out that what happened to them is like they basically got abandoned. Like they're waiting for the army to come, they're holding up, they're trying to stay alive, people are starting to get infected, they're boarding them up, and then there's a bloater in the basement, or 2 of them, I can't remember, but like it's all full of clickers and it's a mess.
Mm.
That would be a cool flashback scene.
It would
Yeah,
be.
especially when they
Yeah.
realize there's a moment where they realize no one's coming for them.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And there's like a
Mm.
bunch of things being written out. And I don't remember exactly what was said, but it was actually pretty heartbreaking to like realize they tried to make a go of it in the dorms and then they ran out of food.
Yeah.
And they were just left.
That's
just left.
interesting. Max Brooks did a book, World War Z, but Brad Pitt got the rights to it, and that's too bad. World War Z is a war vignette story, so it's the zombie war from beginning to end with different vignettes from all over the country. And one of them is as a university in California, where the students actually survived and held off the zombies, and they talked about how they did that. So different universities, different phenomena, I guess. But why don't you guys go ahead and tell everyone where they can find you on social media if you're so inclined? And we'll start with Ben.
You can find all 3 of us at Popcorn Psychology on Facebook and TikTok and all these places. And then you can find us at popcorn_psych on Twitter. And be sure to check out our podcast, Popcorn Psychology, available anywhere you get podcasts.
Mhm.
Fantastic. Brittney, Hannah, anything you want to add to that?
No, just find, you can find us at all those places. And if this is what we talk about on our podcast. Our podcast is us picking a movie. We've been venturing trepidatiously into some TV shows because it's so much material. But yeah, if you thought this was interesting, this is very similar to what we do, in that we pick a movie and kind of psych it all over the place. Just break it down.
And have awesome guests like Scott and Leandra, who joined us for us.
There you go. Fantastic. And that was a great time, great conversation. So thanks once again for having us there. Leandra, how about you? Social media.
You can find me on Twitter at Paris Leandra, at Parris Leandra. Or you can find me on the William & Mary website.
Fantastic. You can find all episodes of Surviving the Last of Us on YouTube at Dark Loops Productions. You can also find podcast versions of the episodes wherever you find podcasts. If you want to write in about the show, please do so on this YouTube page or send an email to darkloopsproductions@gmail.com, and we'll be sure to read it at the end of our next episode. So there it is. From all of us to all of you, big hugs, and remember, we just be more
scared without you.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.